Hey friends, welcome to Rocket Punch! Now while I love playing Dragonbane and Shadowdark, the fantasy genre can get a little boring sometimes. That's why I like running sci-fi games too. In sci-fi there's so many awesome genres to tackle too. You could be a space trucker, hunted by a xenomorph. You could be exploring the edge of the known space. You could be hunting replicants in a dark film noir mystery cyberpunk setting. You could be flying an X-Wing and shooting womp rats as you fly by. Or you could be slowly suffocating in a rusty tin can. So join me over at the table as we take a look at some of my favorite sci-fi RPGs.
Hey guys, if you're like me, you get tired of playing fantasy all the time, or some of the time, or whatever the time. And that's when I like to reach for some of my favorite sci-fi games. And in no particular order, let's start with one of my favorites. Bam! Alien RPG by Free League Publishing. This thing is awesome. I've always been a huge Alien fan, or Aliens really. When I was younger, I think Aliens was my favorite, but as I get older, I think Alien is the better film. I'm sorry, although I totally love Aliens as well. But Alien, it's still very suspenseful. And now I'm already rambling. So Alien is great because it's kind of like a dangerous and cinematic blue-collar space horror. And Free League really does that because they have two different types of game that you can run. You can run a campaign game where it's very long, which I've never tried in this. I want it to be more horror-driven, so I like the cinematic campaign where it's basically a 3-act structure. They kind of, in their games they show, and then I've kind of adapted that for my own play, which is really good because it kind of ramps up, and then by like the middle of Act 2, like shit's hit the fan and things start getting freaky. But I have played as a full Space Marine game of Aliens, but I prefer the Space Trucker one. I mean, we had a lot of fun being all Space Marines. Oops, all Space Marines. But I think the Space Trucker vibe is a lot more my style. So I really like that blue-collar future. You know, you have the nasty corporations plotting against you, and you have that survival, and in here you have an awesome stress mechanic, and then horrible things in dark corners. So character creation is really quick and easy. It's just your standard Mutant Year Zero stuff. You can see that the evolved version has the nice white pages instead of that. While it was very cool, the black pages, it was a pain in the butt. Not only to print little sections, but also on the eyes. And they were able to kind of reduce the size of everything on the page and really, take advantage of the pages and get rid of some of that white space. So one of my favorite things in here is this crit table. So once you go to lose all your stamina and you get hit with your last hit point, then what's really awesome is, like all other Mutant Year Zero stuff, you don't die, you become broken. And then you get to roll on the fun critical injuries table. So you could be nothing really. You could just be winded if you're lucky, or you could get blood in the eyes, or a broken leg, or a cracked spine, or a severed arm, or ruptured jugular, or be disemboweled, a crushed head, or an impaled heart. So that's really fun, and I love having my friends roll on that. You can also have some cool mental trauma, and you get all these awesome weapons from the movies. I just like looking at these pages. I could just stare at them for hours. They're so awesome. But you can see how easy it is. You don't have to add a whole bunch of stuff, your talents and things. You're just gonna add to your little D6 dice pool. So it's mostly flavor rather than a whole bunch of mechanics you have to remember. You get all the cool vehicles from the movies. Now, what's nice about Free League is a lot of their systems that they do make that are based on properties, you don't have to play the property. There's a lot of information in the book on Alien and that Weyland-Yutani franchise and everything under the sun that's related to Alien, all the systems and things. But really, it's just a cool system that you can use to play space horror games. You don't even have to throw aliens in there at all. It doesn't really matter. You can make up your own monsters pretty easily. But we came here to play Alien, and one thing you'll want to do is you got to find a cool group who has maybe watched Alien but can play characters that have no idea. And I usually find it helps to not call them face huggers or aliens, usually like shadowy forms or little crab creatures or spidery creatures or something like that, to kind of keep it kind of like Walking Dead. You can't call them zombies, right? You got all this cool art. And you have the stress mechanic, which is really awesome. And it does have in here your campaign play. It has a whole bunch of hooks, job generators, and things like that. But I find that these are really good for just playing cinematic adventures where you just have a start, beginning, and end. And in here, in the Evolved Edition, we also have a solo game mode, which I'm playing on my channel right now. So check that out. So yeah, that's Alien. It's awesome. Go pick it up. Next, we have Death in Space. So what if we took Morkborg and threw it in outer space? Then you would have Death in Space. So it uses the same Morkborg engine. So it's really easy. You can flip to the back, and there's all the rules. So you can just give your player this cheat sheet. They know how to do everything. Now this has the black pages, which kind of stinks, but you can get over it. So what makes this game really cool is that you're basically scavengers. And you have either some kind of base or some kind of little rocket ship that you always have to repair. And in this system, there's really no jumping to other points in space. And just like Morkborg's, it will come to an end. But you're around this iron ring, and that's where you kind of get scrap and things to fix your ship. There's simple character generation. It's got the Morkborg system, so really easy. You can get some backgrounds and traits and stuff like that. And then you'll want to create your hub. So you got like a little spaceship that you travel on. You're going to go on little odd jobs and things to kind of keep your ship afloat, essentially. So it's your standard D20 rollover system. You do get some cosmic mutations and things. And it just has a lot about repairing and off-road and space travel-y stuff. And you can do combat in here. It kind of goes over the system that you're kind of in. So this is also a game where it has its own like setting, essentially. But you don't have to play it, and you don't have to play exactly as written. You could probably adapt this pretty easily to kind of use with Firefly or something like that also. And it has a whole bunch of locations, so you can almost do a hex crawl. So yeah, this is another really awesome one that's really quick to play, quick at the table. Especially if you've played Morkborg, it's basically the same thing with new stuff on it. Another game in a similar light of, or a similar darkness to Death in Space is Coriolis. But not quite the same, but you are in a system that you've kind of been, you guys are kind of trapped, you can't get out of. You've kind of got there, and now you have a ship city, which is a giant asteroid. But the future's not as bleak, but it is kind of a small location. But it's going to be interesting to you if you kind of want to go dungeon delving in outer space. So this has a lot of hex crawling in ruins, like ancient precursor ruins. And it's another Mutant Year Zero engine, so if you've played any of them, this will be really quick for you to pick up. So you have a whole bunch of cool explorers, and basically this was written as almost like a gentleman's club, like a hunting club, kind of a Victorian, steampunky kind of vibe a little bit as well. And if you've never played the first Coriolis, it doesn't really matter. It's loosely connected lore-wise, but it doesn't matter if you've never played that before, because this is going to be a very different system. And you can check out, as I go over the core rules of the system, on a page that I went through on my channel. You can kind of see some awesome art that they have. You know the combat, you're going to make a D6 dice pool. In here you've got like Hope and Heart, which are kind of like stress-like items, kind of like the other systems they have. Most of your Zero engines have some kind of despair or stress or system like that. In this, you're going to have a cool, instead of that canary in the coal mine, you're going to have these like Garuda birds, and they're going to kind of act as kind of pets, but also very useful for you in the caves. And this really shows an excellent kind of what it feels like. You have a little scavenger truck, and you have like your little small carrier ship. Here's some of the spacesuits you're going to go spelunking in. And this really has a lot about how to go on delves, which are going to be kind of similar to like space dungeons, essentially. There we have a picture of Ship City and the system you're in, the Jamua system. They're going to kind of go over what that is like. And then you have all these asteroids and old precursor items that you're going to go explore. And basically you're going to start with a little shuttlecraft, because you're going to be in these giant great ships or Ship City, and you're going to really just be flying on these shuttles. I think you can do combat, but it's not really about that. It's really about exploration and kind of a lot of conniving and stuff like that. When you get to Ship City, there's a lot of factions and things that are going to be vying for control. But there's a really nice procedure they have for delving in dungeons, where everybody kind of gets a chance to do their little special thing as you explore these dungeons in space. and find really cool stuff. Okay, but what if we want to go back to Earth? Let's travel back to Earth, and I'm going to play Blade Runner, which I've also taken a look at here. And yeah, it's maybe cyberpunk, but to me it's not as cyberpunk as cyberpunk, so it's a little bit more on the sci-fi side for me, although it's kind of the cyberpunk genre. So this is an awesome game because it's going to kind of mix that sci-fi elements, some cyberpunk elements, with a whole bunch of detective noir. So if that's your thing, it's going to be really awesome. So it kind of takes place after the first movie and before the second movie. But again, I like playing the ideas of the movies or the environments of the movies, but I always kind of run my own way. So you don't have to go exactly by the lore. It's another Mutant Year Zero Engine game. So same thing. If you played any of those, you're going to have a really easy time. There's a whole bunch of different cops or detectives you can play. You can play like analysts, city speakers, doxies, enforcers, fixers, inspectors, skimmers. And you can either play as a human or a replicant, or it could be a mystery and maybe you roll it hidden and only your GM knows exactly what you are. So memories and things are going to be really important in here. Again, it has a ton of lore about all the areas, all the sectors of the city of LA in the future. Goes over the governments, criminal enterprises, the different types of Nexus replicants. I almost said robots. They're not robots. And then just if you like Blade Runner, this is a really awesome source book. Even if you are not going to play the game, there's just a ton of stuff on the weapons, the setting of cyberpunk and things like that. So if you really love Blade Runner, then just for the art and for the information might be cool enough for you. Where's my joy? And the spinners. So that's another cool thing. You could probably take this and throw it in another Mutant Year Zero because it kind of, uses all the same specs and things. And another really great thing, because I'm not the best at making mysteries and stuff, it has a cool section on how to basically make a case, make like a little investigation. So I have like a theme, different assignments, different NPCs that could be there, different locations and cases, what the twist might be, what kind of clues there could be. And then you could just kind of put them together, basically let your players just find stuff and have them kind of put the clues together, almost like, a BX kind of adventure where I'm just giving you items, like what does this really mean? And they have to put it together, like a lot of games like that. Brindlewood Bay is a good example of that kind of thing where you're just throwing stuff at them. They kind of have to build the story themselves. And then you just say, yeah, that's why that was. So it's very loose on how it handles mysteries, but it's got enough meat to kind of get you going. Now I know why you came here. You came here for space opera. And you want to go pew, 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 pew. Heroes, aliens, spaceships, and awesome cinematic adventures. And using this old first edition West End Games version of Star Wars makes it more interesting to me than any other system that's come after to adapt Star Wars. It's such an easy system with just D6s. I love it so much. And this book just has so much history. There's so much information in here. And it used to be given to a lot of people, like Lucasfilm would give this book out to people when they were writing the novels and things like that, because it just had so much back history and stuff like that for the Star Wars universe. And it has so many pictures and stuff. So I remember in between the movies and stuff, we didn't have all that awesome stuff and internet and things. So we would just stare at these books because it was a whole bunch of screenshots. So you could really study the movie because we didn't always have an awesome DVD or anything like that. We'd wear out our VHS copies of all this stuff, especially these color plates in the middle of the book. These almost join the Imperial Navy stuff. I love that, just trying to get people to join. That's really awesome. Had a lot of lore that they kind of made for the game that ended up becoming permanent lore in the Star Wars universe. Another thing why I like this game a lot is because it's not hit points. It's all about wounds and wound levels. I do like those in a lot of games better than I like hit points, and slowly whittling away at an enemy is kind of boring, really. Another awesome color plate. Look at these. I remember just staring at this stuff. And then you have just a whole bunch of the awesome Star Wars stuff that you know and love without the Force being forced teleportation, which is totally lame and dumb And don't do that. It should just be like telekinesis, telepathy, and just like mind over matter kind of stuff, not superpowers. Got like a little commercial kind of for the income. That's really awesome. The Galaxy Tours thing. You got all about the astromechs, things like that. And you have some adventure ideas, which is really nice. And then you just have your character sheet. So everyone has all these skills. You're just going to build your dice pool, roll up, and beat a number. And then in here, just to make it easy, you have all these templates of your standard kind of Star Wars dude. So it doesn't really matter. And there's really no benefits to being different races at all. So you can just be whatever you want. I finally was able to play with my friends, and I chose, I've never done an Ewok, so I want to do an Ewok, and he was insane. It was so much fun. Yeah, we're not going to buy this. Yeah, I sold my old books, so I was lucky enough when Fantasy Flight republished the first editions, I was able to grab these, and it comes with this and the source book. So you can probably find on eBay for like $70 or so. So it's totally worth it. Check it out. And last but not least, thanks to Justin over at Books, Bricks, and Boards for getting me into Savage Worlds. Although I haven't played a ton of it yet, I really want to play more. And I just picked up, bam, the Savage Worlds Suede Edition Science Fiction Companion. So this is the second edition essentially of it, but you can use the first edition. They have a lot more cool things in here, apparently. It's pretty interesting. I love this kind of retro futurism where he's got a little space helmet and stuff. That's really cool. If you know Suede, then you'll know about this. We don't need that. We just need humans in our game. But this covers so many different kinds of genres in it. It's very awesome. So if we go over to the bestiary, it has basically all the serial numbers filed off. And here's another really cool thing. In here you have Unarmored Hero. So heroes and heroines of classic space opera often wore skin-tight suits or very little at all. Some of Flash Gordon's first comic strips featured the titular hero wearing nothing more than a pair of briefs. A wildcard hero who chooses not to wear any armor, ignoring shields, in battle adds +2. So that's really cool. You're just going to be a space barbarian, and you get a little bit of that magic, cinematic strength kind of stuff, cartoony kind of stuff. So you can play like BattleTech as well with this. You can do cyberpunk, apocalyptic sci-fi, so you could do like Suede Fallout. I think this is almost like the suits in Starship Troopers. I think in the book, if I remember correctly, they were more like this, and they never had that in the show, or the movie, which was unfortunate. You can play like techno horrors, Star Trek, space opera like Star Wars, time travel. You could do Traveler. It's got cybernetics in here, hacking and things like that. Again, pretty cool art. It's not the greatest, but it's serviceable. I like this kind of stuff better than some of the other art where it's just like robots and stuff. The human stuff is kind of a mixed bag, but this stuff's pretty cool. You got like a sand crawler thing. But I really want to show you guys. And oh yeah, and you can make mechs and stuff like that in here. You can make your own mechs. And for BattleTech, and it mentions BattleTech, it has heat rules, which is nice. Some rules for making a world. And here we go, the bestiary. So you have like your little Borg stand-in. You have your Mars Attack stand-in. You got your Dune stand-in if you want. You got like space elves and space dwarves if you want to throw some fantasy elements into there. You have your Terminator and T2. So you have stuff like that. So you can, it doesn't have to be space fiction. It can just be any kind of science fiction-y elements to a thing like Terminator. You got some kind of cosmic horrors if you want to do like Space Cthulhu. That's pretty awesome. You got your xenomorph with no serial numbers on it. Got some new animals if you want to throw a chimpanzee in space or something. You got your Predator stand-in. And if you're really tight on time, you could just give everybody a crew member and just play Star Trek. You don't even really have to roll new characters. You could just give everybody like a captain, an engineer, a gunner, a medical officer. Just make them wild cards, really. A pilot, navigator. You got your Starship Troopers alien there. And you have space zombies, because you can't have enough zombies in space. So yeah, if you want to play science fiction, but nothing really appeals to you, grab Suede and kind of make your own thing. Or play something from the movies that doesn't have its own G out there. So that's a look at some of my favorite science fiction role-playing games. So tell me in the comments below If you've played any of those, which ones do you like? Or are there any that I missed that are really awesome? I know I didn't mention everything, but these are some of my favorites. So comment down below and we'll catch you again next time on Rocket Punch. Later.
Don't forget before you go to leave a comment below, like these guys over here.